When a man turns 40, he starts losing year by year about 1% of his testosterone. He notices it more when he's 50, in his mid 50s. The levels have gone lower and lower, less sex drive. He has less vitality. He has erectile dysfunction. He may notice that he's not as energetic in yard work, in his labors, in his profession as before. There's reduced muscle mass and bone density. And sometimes, in certain cases, there is anemia. Well, it's called hypogonadism, and Chattanooga City Council has a bad case of hypogonadism thanks to the people, the 9 members who are on that council, put there by people just like you, my listener, who took part in elections thinking you're doing your civic righteous duty, and putting men and women there who are, in some respects, not in all, in some respects, are very slack. They've become not vital. They have become not, you might say, not erect, not standing firm with their shoulders back, looking at the world and saying, we are elected and we on the city council are going to govern Chattanooga in service, right? There is a mix in government of being the overseer and the boss, and also of being the one upon whose back the people tread, right? You are in service, you are lying down, as it were, in the mud puddle and letting the people cross over you so that their souls won't get muddy. That's what you do in public service, right? There is a high calling and low drudgery, looking at budget reports and proposed contracts for $600,000 of software or new electronic monitors for the sewer system, right? Those are all the things that are the drudgery of public service. You have the low and you have the high. You are the servant doing these things for the people corporately, but also you are to have a vigor. You are to have an ardency in your job, like the 35-year-old man making love to his wife, right? There's a great ardor there, great vigor, great excitement. And of course, there's a satisfaction that in the physical realm we understand to be a unifying and beneficial and loving, wonderful part of the creation. We are made in God's image, and that is how He made us. And as C.S. Lewis says in his book on love, God laughs at us as we take part in that. So the problem is hypogonadism. In the city council, lack of testosterone. And there was last night in Chattanooga, the River City, there was a party who gave the city council a shot of testosterone, and that is Marie Mott. She followed in her rebuke, in her demands for reform. She followed an important local figure whom you may not have heard of, unless, of course, you read Nuganomics.com. And are perhaps a regular on our show. Now, if you're new listening, I do thank you for tuning in. This is David Toulis, and we are at 95.3 FM HD4. That's high definition digital, and also that's a 65-mile signal. You can tune us in long way off if you have the right radio, and also 92.7 FM Nuga Radio. And this show is brought to you by my GoFundMe page. Partly, I'm trying to pay my way here, and that's GoFundMe David Toulis Show. TULIS is my name, and I do thank you for tuning in. Brought to you by Nuganomics.com also, and the number is 800-8949. Maybe you want to tell me something about the city council and Avery Gray making a presentation to the council, and the council was, I would say, entranced. The council members were rapt, R-A-P-T. They were at rapt stillness as they heard this mother of a young woman who was dragged from her car by a servant of the Mayor Andy Burke. The servant is named Officer Wright, and I think at one point I had his first name. And I think at one point I published it at Nuganomics.com, our sponsor, but I just couldn't find it last night. So my report proceeds now without it. And I hope you will forgive me. The name is David Toulis, and we are the David Toulis Show here. Like us on Facebook. And you report and the world decides. But I also report. Okay, I report to you, my listener, and let you decide. And so there are competing narratives. If you want to go online and check who the leading, the number 2 journalist in Chattanooga is Judy Walton, and she's a writer at Chattanooga Times Free Press. Make sure that you do a sideways glance to her story, and also look at mine. Ask yourself, which writer would you rather hear more from, me or Judy Walton? So you want to know who the leading journalists are in Chattanooga? Well, she's number 2, okay? And no, I'm not number 1. No, I would not say that. Though we are, I must say, the most noisome jubilant press platform in Chattanooga. I will say that, and I say it unabashedly, thanks to Marie Mott, who is with us. She is our host, and you can hear her tomorrow at 11 right here on the CBS radio affiliate and the Sean Hannity station, with a terrific morning newscast. By the way, if you are out and about and you're wasting your time listening to country music or even classical music on the profitless public radio station, make sure that you tune into our newscast. Nothing quite like it. Russ and Val in the morning, starting at 6 o'clock. And of course, I'm up by then. I'm up very early every day. Yesterday, I was up at 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning. I just couldn't sleep, and I just had to. I have about 6 articles in the hopper, 6 essays in the hopper at Nuganomics.com, including my very, very exciting dismissal. I've been dismissed by the Register of Deeds in Hamilton County. Very exciting story developing there, where he refuses to do his fiduciary duty, his ministerial duty to publish a 20-page legal analysis, which is scaring people. I must say, it is a scary analysis because it shows that our law in Tennessee, namely the transportation law, is really very open, very generous. We are a very libertarian state. I mean, I want you to know that we live in a free state, and our transportation law reflects that. Now, again, the name is David Toulis, and you are here live on the David Toulis Show. What is on your mind, please? Give us a report.
Absolutely. So, David, last night, it was nothing but theatrics. Nothing but theatrics. And what can Avery Gray do? Just like what can Jesse Parker do, Noah McLemore? What can Ezra Roberts do? What can the women who were raped do? What can these individuals do with sympathy chips, fake crocodile tears? What can they do with empathy? What can they do with that? Are their lives made different by inaction? Because let's be honest, David, me and you go down to city council on a regular basis. And did they care before Avery Gray showed up in person? And it took courage, it took gumption, it took fortitude, things that they just didn't expect. I don't believe that they thought she was ever going to show up. They bank on and they count on people not standing up, people living and operating in fear, right? And I don't think that they expected that Miss Gray would ever make it down, and that I'm certainly sure they didn't expect that she would be coming with, assuredly with us, because we've been supporting her from day one. David, you supported her from day one. Before there was a Times Free Press, News Channel 12, you reached out to her and you gave her the platform. And you've been walking with her behind the scenes every step of the way, David. That's the thing people just don't understand.
Well, listen,
they would never know.
If my listener doesn't know this voice, you are the poorer for it. And it is Marie Mott on the line. Thank you, Marie, for calling in. I dared not ask you to take your time to talk with me, since I know you're really busy. But you are a very courageous person, and you are making statements which, when I heard you make them to Ken Smith, I must say I was shocked. I was shocked that someone other than Confederate Mike would be making that statement. And the statement you made, Marie, was, are you saying that the rules of the city council and the limits on speech supersede and push down the constitutional right of free speech under the First Amendment? That was what you were saying, Avery. That's what you were saying, Marie. Now, what is it that you wanted to tell the city council? Tell us what you would have said had they not shut the meeting down to avoid your daring threat, which was
Where were you during the action? This happened in June. This happened it's almost October. You supposedly are working. You're giving her a form of trust, a form of assurance we've never seen up until that very moment, David. We never saw any action. We never saw any promises. We never got any assurances, any guarantees. Nobody reached out to Avery Gray and offered their personal time to walk her through the government process and just support her as a representative of her, because she pays them and she pays taxes. She pays them. They represent her. Nobody volunteered for that. Black, white, male, female, Republican, Democrat, nobody did, not one. But they had the audacity to bring God's name into the subject matter of what happened yesterday by prayer. And you cannot quote the living word of God, because that is a living, breathing word of God, and then somehow oppress people and then act like it's okay to do what you know is unlawful and unjust.
Well, we are talking. Go ahead.
Where were they 3 months ago? And then further, her daughter was sitting outside the entire time in a hot car in the heat. She was air conditioned, but she was sitting outside the entire time because she was too terrified. The moment she saw officers going into the courtroom, the poor child was terrified. She did not want to come in. How many of them, they all wanted to come to Avery Gray because that's what they do. They want to come one by one. Nobody wants to be controversial, speak out, speak for the people. Nobody wants to get reprimanded from Ken Smith because he sure as heck didn't mind saying that he's in charge of the city council and he's the one responsible. No, you are a body. You are a body. And everyone has their own voice and their own say-so. If they are following your lead, then we need to do away with every last one of you. Nobody went and reached out to Avery Gray's daughter and said, I am so sorry that I dropped the ball. I represent you, young lady. That's how government works. I represent you, and I failed you, and I will never fail you again. Well, nobody talked to her.
No, and no one made any effort to go out and see her or ask Mrs. Gray, is your daughter nearby? Why is she not here? That was not done. Somehow there's this sort of this pall in that room where you just somehow can't be real. And one thing I wanted to mention, Marie Mott, and that is that somehow when you're in the city council chamber, things seem very remote. Somehow you're in a room where there's a lot of sound deadening material on the walls, and the outside world news just doesn't come in. Somehow the city council people seem not to have heard about Avery Gray. There's no sense that they knew about her, that they were aware of her, that they'd followed the news coverage, namely mine. I'm the one who's written about her in some detail. It all, and even the law, Phil Nobleth, the city attorney, seemed very vague about what the law was, and that there was a clear violation by the officer of the statute that prohibits men or women involved in repossession cases from creating a breach of the peace if there is not a judge's warrant involved in that case. And there wasn't one in this case. And so the officer was wrong, doubly wrong, I think. So that's at least an administrative claim on his employment status, and possibly even a criminal sanction. Though I don't think, Marie, there's a criminal penalty for that statute being violated. I don't think it exists, but I'm not sure.
I don't know if it exists or not, David. But the problem is that when you have people like Anthony Byrd who can leave after they adjourn the meeting because I refuse to accept that municipal ordinances are above the Constitution, and that my First Amendment right guarantees me not to have my freedom of speech abridged, and that you have to redress my grievances, meaning that you have to give me the floor whether you like me or not, whether you want to or not. That is my right, my God-given right. To leave me standing there and to have the same people who always want to come to you individually and promise that they love you, they care about you, they're with you, they're not against you. Nobody spoke up, not one, David, and you were there as a witness. It's recorded on YouTube.
No, and
not one of them objected to leaving me standing there demanding Ken Smith and Oglesby, who's the vice chair, that they give me my First Amendment right. And anybody else who wanted to speak, they didn't even ask. They didn't even allow.
My listeners missing. We're talking with Marie Mott, and I want just to interject here, Marie, the point that we haven't mentioned here, and that is that you were sort of shouted down by Ken Smith, saying who said you cannot speak because you've spoken twice within the 1 month or 30-day period, and there's a dispute as to which one controls. And then you said what? Tell my listener what you said, Marie, to City Council last night.
I asked him to tell me if a city ordinance is above the Constitution and what it states in the Bill of Rights. He would not answer that question, and further, he would basically bring in the city attorney, who does not is not a member of the city council.
He doesn't belong there.
Seems to control behind the scenes what they say and what they answer to. Basically, that he's following the legal advice, and he wouldn't even answer my question of whose legal advice he is following. Because anybody who's given legal advice should know that all laws are void if they are placed above the Constitution. There is no law above the Constitution. There's not one. Well,
let's get to the answer now, Marie. What is it that you said to the city council? You said what? What was the dare that you made, that you uttered? You uttered. I told them
they would have to drag me from the podium. Drag me from the podium. Or they had to give me my 5 minutes.
And
drag me from the podium.
And
you're going to have to either arrest me.
Well, and there was an officer right there whose name I wrote down, but he could have been ordered to drag you away from the podium and the meeting to continue. But rather than do that, now here's what happened. Listener, you need to read my story at Nuganomics.com that has the details. These details are not, by the way, in Judy Walton's account of the meeting. Okay, her account is very flat and kind of dry and makes it look kind of dull and perfunctory. But I have the passion in my account. And Marie Mott said, "Drag me away," and they wouldn't do it. So what did they do? They dodged, they ducked, and they did. And in unison, there was a call to adjourn. Several said it at the same time when I think Ken Smith said, "What shall we do?" And several said, "Call to adjourn," and not one in that voice vote opposed it. So they all agreed that they would rather adjourn and block other people from speaking after you, to keep you from speaking and to keep themselves from dragging you away from the podium. Marie Mott.
Absolutely, no controversy.
No one took your side. No one said, "Well, hold on, other people want to speak, and let's make an exception for Marie." No one was willing to make an exception for you, and you are a Nougat Radio person. You have your press tag, and we are journalists here. We're reporting on things. We're also arguing for things. We have. Let me ask you this, Marie. In our reporting, in our analysis of the city, are we neutral and objective, or do we have a bias? What would you say? What's our bias?
Do we have a bias?
Yes.
As the press?
Yes.
Me and you?
Yes.
We don't have a bias. We have an interest, and that is in the people. We have an interest for the truth, and that is what's right. I don't choose the truth. The truth chose us, and we have a job to tell it. That is the job of the press.
That is right. And I told Avery Gray's mother last night after the meeting, met her outside. Of Avery Gray's two parents, one is white and one is black, and the mother is a woman of color, very, very dignified person. And I said to her, "Ma'am, well, we are members of the press, but we are biased." And I said, "Well, the biases are the Constitution and God. In other words, what God declares is true in the Word. That is sort of our premise and presupposition in how we view the world and what kind of questions we ask."
Absolutely. That is the only power that we have. Anything other than is opinion. And David, me and you both, we are fighting for the people. And David, I love you for that. Always.
I love you, Marie. Thanks. We've been chatting with Marie Mott, whose show is every day at 11 o'clock right here at Nougat Radio. So do tune in to Marie's show. It's the Marie Mott Show at 11 right here. And Marie is giving, as I suggest, a treatment to hypogonadism, which is the city council's problem right now. And this is not to say that it's permanent, right? These are all conditions subject to treatment, and their condition can gain. They can be supine and prone and limp, but they can with proper treatment, right? They can stand erect again, their shoulders back, their eyes sharp and clear once more, their voices deep, and they can say, "We are not going to be here anymore just administrators. we are going to be better than just administrators. We're going to be men and women who govern. David Toulis, what's on your mind?
I just want to know, with everything that's going on, what is the options that people can do? Like, who can we complain? Who can we...
I appreciate your call. We have a call. Hang on just a minute. I've got some important announcements to come in here. And the name is David Toulis, and we are here. I've got some sponsors to mention here on the David Toulis Show. We'll be right back, and the number is 800-8949. And the question is, what can we do? What can we do? Great question, David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A car rear-ended a Hamilton County school bus on Amnacoa Highway this afternoon. Photos show minimal damage to the school bus, but the front end of the car was totally caved in. The driver reportedly told the police they did not see the bus. There were no students on board. A similar crash happened yesterday when a car slammed into a fire truck in Chattanooga. It happened on Hamill Road. The occupants of the car were hospitalized. The firefighters were fine. The TBI tweeted an update about the Amber Alert that buzzed our phones this morning. Great news, they say Stephen Smith has been recovered and is safe. Stevie Boyd is currently in police custody in Memphis. Stevie Boyd, believed to be armed and dangerous at the time of his son's disappearance. Stephen Smith, a 3-week-old, reportedly abducted by his non-custodial father. The Sean Hannity Show is on every weekday from 3 to 6 on Nooga Radio. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News. Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Cash, and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Rainer Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor, to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend the weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Heating up out there for your afternoon. Lots of sunshine. Dry for the next few days as well. Highs 90 to 93. Tonight, fair. Lows into the upper 60s. For Thursday, more sunshine. Hot and dry. Highs into the lower 90s. Around 90 again on Friday. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area. Check rlsouthernrealty.com for their complete listing. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I do thank you for calling. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. And we just heard from a man who wanted to know what we can do. And I'd say that's the largest question that we want to ask is, what can we do particularly about the suppressive and oppressive operation of Mayor Andy Burke and his anti-economic development office? He has an economic development office run by Donna Williams, who always appears at the city council meetings on Tuesday night. Then he has an anti-development office, an anti-growth office, a fear-inducing office called the police department. Now, that's not its intention, but that is, in fact, the result. And we heard yesterday from Avery Gray an example of what we are talking about, and that is the life of fear that tens of thousands of people in Chattanooga have, and they have it that in a way surrounding that adds is kind of a decor to their existing surroundings, which are not rich, which are poor, which are kind of short-term oriented, not a lot of capital, not prospects. They're employed. They don't have many benefits that you, my listener, do, and many of them are not just under the sense of oppression, but they are in fact oppressed people. If you read Nuganomics.com, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I've met many people and have written about many common people. I'm thinking just right here of Tiffany McGuinn here in East Ridge, a working waitress with young dependents at home with $14,000 in state debt, court debt, and fines and so on, and she can't use the road legally, and so she is continually at earning $700 a week. Out and impoverished by the inability to move, because she thinks that if she takes to the road in a car that she's committing a crime, and she's not. Now, I say she's not, and I've done extensive research on your rights. Okay, I do research on behalf of people to help them. I've always done that, and more so now as I'm realizing my role as a journalist in Chattanooga to broadcast and to narrowcast. Okay, I broadcast to you to thousands, you and maybe thousands of other people, maybe just you. As far as I know, it's just you. Okay, but it is radio, and so it does have a great reach, 60 miles out around the Chattanooga area. And then I also narrowcast. I write things that have I write things in great detail that have maybe a dozen readers, right? A dozen readers at a pop, or maybe 9 readers at a pop. When I met with the city council at their public meeting on a Tuesday, February 20, and gave them an analysis of the statute through which much oppression happens. Much oppression happens. And the caller wanted to know, what do we do? And I like calls. I like when you kind of bring me back to a simple question. It's all you're saying 15 different things, David, and they all sound fine together. But what can you boil it down? What's the one thing we need to know about? What are the 2 main things we can do? Are there steps we can make? And maybe you have an answer to that. And this is David Toulis, and I do want you to think about calling me. Just put me in your phone, and make also, as you're putting things down, note of the following, and that is Thursday, the Gridiron Gang Show at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. That's a hangout you can take part in with us, 7 to 9 p.m. It's a live broadcast at the Starbucks restaurant, the Gridiron Gang Show, and our sports guys are there talking about high school football. It's brought to you by Vision Hospitality, and my name is David Toulis. And also, in speaking of things that you need to think about, there is on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, We've Got You Covered Radio. That's We've Got You Covered Radio with Scott Schrader, and who has a legion of experts who talk about home care, home investment, home repair, things on improving your home with the least cost, and making your home a real investment, something that will keep its value as nature and time wear against it, right? You want to keep things going. Scott Schrader runs Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, so make sure you call him for an estimate. And my name is David Toulis. What can we do? And I want to tell you about the city council, but I also want to, as you hear the details there, and if you have to duck out, I appreciate it. I know you're busy, but make sure you go to Nouganomics.com. That's our sponsor, Nouganomics.com. It's spelled just like it's done. Become a subscriber. That way you won't be like city council in a fog, right? The city council just seems to be in a fog. They don't know what's happening, and I'm the writer who extensively covers what I would say are abuses of liberty, abuses of law, and also the abuse of the form of government that we've elected to have in our country, which is to say government in 3 parts, where you have a legislative branch and an executive branch, in addition to a judicial branch. And the reason I put it that way is because as a believer in the one true God, I understand that government, really lawful government, Romans 13 government, right, is judicial in its ethic and practice. There is not a need for an executive. There's not a need for more laws, right? We have plenty of laws as they are, moral laws in the scriptures. We don't need more moral laws in the U.S. Code, more moral laws in the Tennessee Code annotated, because those are, of course, contradictory systems to Christendom. They are positivist law, they are regulatory law, they are preemptive law, and they are how tyrannies, the most efficient tyrannies, are made, always through positive statute, rather than the biblical common law understanding of government and civil authority. It is in the scriptures, civil authority is minimalist and reactive. It is not proactive, right? Which is what we have today. So, in light of that, the question from my caller at 800-8949, 800-8949 is this: what do we do? And what are the steps we have to make? And so, there are different levels at which the answer would come. So here I can't really give a simple answer, but one. All right, two main things. Okay, let's say if we had to kind of cut things off in the details and just give the main point, right? The main nut. The one would be have here we have elections and campaigns and all that implied in the answer, but I would say care about Chattanooga and make your representative represent you. Okay, that would be by calling your representative, contacting your representative, and saying, this is important to me. Please make note of the reporting on it. These are abuses that have to be stopped. Please exercise your authority, period. And that's and sign your name. That's a quick handwritten letter. And handwritten letter is 30 times more effective than an email, believe me. And don't leave messages. City and state legislators and executive people have no time for listening to messages, they don't do it. So don't waste your time. A handwritten note, maybe a nice card or a nice piece of paper is all you need. A handwritten note with 3 sentences, that will do the trick, because that shows how deep the sentiment runs. Okay, so the answer one would be make your local representative represent you, care about your town, right? Whether in Chattanooga or some other place, right? We are Nooga centrist, and my name is David Toulis, the blogger with the biggest pen in Chattanooga, the editor of Nooganomics.com, the free market platform, right? Anti-state, anti-war, pro-market, pro-liberty, pro-constitution, pro-marriage, pro-God, pro-deconstructing the administrative state, as Steve Bannon once put it. That's what we're about. We are for the rise of the distributed economy, the free market, legal, constitutionally protected, and God-protected, God-ordained free market in Tennessee. We are a free people, and we have what's called free government in our Constitution. We can have those things, but we can't have them if we don't believe in them. We have to live in terms of them, even if there is resistance. Okay, and that brings up the second answer. All right, so just to rehearse, okay? Okay, 800-8949, 800-8949. The first answer is lococentrism in your interest in law. Okay, all politics is law. All politics, all elections are about laws. All laws are about right and wrong, right? Every law that you imagine is about good or evil, some definition of evil. And we have some candidate who says, here's my understanding of evil, and here's my understanding of good. And I want to pass laws that reflect this worldview. Okay, so don't forget, politics is all about laws. And we are living in a time where lawmaking and politicking is a dead god, because we know the welfare state, the redistributive state, the surveillance state, the commercial government state is dead. It is dead. It is dead. It cannot revive anything. It cannot give hope. And the interest in it is declining worldwide, and particularly in America and here in Chattanooga. And that is because, you can tell because people don't vote anymore. Lack of voting is people not taking part in the regular sacrament of state worship. Right, the Messianic Savior state has saved enough people, and now it seems to be lacking the testosterone to save many more. Fewer and fewer people place their hope in its provisions, in its wisdom, in its security. Now, so that's answer one: lococentrism in politics and discernment about law. You know, all the law that we have to deal with is online. Why does Phil Noblet not know what statute applies to repossessions? I mean, he could have found that out by going to the Tennessee Code unannotated online, like I do, no annotations, and just Google or just type in repossession, breach of peace. Those 2 words will bring up in the first 2 screens the statute that Officer Wright violated. Okay, it's pretty simple. All right, so all right, back. Calm down, David. Calm down. 800-8949. That's 800-8949. Okay, and the question is, what can we do? All right, so the first one, again, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. Lococentrism, local focus, local care about elected officials, and get people like Tim Boyd on the city council. Okay, Tim Boyd is the taxpayer watchdog on the county commission. Get people like him. Okay, people like him who are critical, who do not accept marketing from do-gooders and program creators and nonprofit organizations with great governors program this, governors program that. Enough of that. People who are not impressed by sort of statist progressive theories and programs and agendas. Okay, people who have sales resistance. Okay, like Rhonda Thurman. Rhonda Thurman on the school board is the kind of person I'm talking about. Sales resistance. That's what she has. Okay. The other part is this, and I'll summarize this. The second thing we can do, because in it are many details, but the main idea, as I told Keila Jackson yesterday, the blogger and social activist, in a text message, I said, Keila, watch this video by Dr. Dwayne. He is I think a Regent University professor. And you can find it online by typing in Dwayne, I don't answer questions. And he will tell you, he's a law professor, why you don't answer questions. He promises before God he will not answer any policeman's questions. And that is the basic point of the second answer. And that, what do? Don't answer questions. Now, what that implies, if you are approached by some officer or some cop or some tax collector, you don't answer questions. What you're saying is, I'm not talking to you apart from my attorney. Okay, so let's say it's some bean counter who's demanding your books. You say, I'm sorry, sir, you have to have a warrant for that and put everything in writing. Address it to me at this address, care of my attorney. Okay, that's what you have to say. Now, the bureaucrat who likes to do things orally because that way he can't be pinned down, now he has to commit to paper. Okay, then now suddenly his job has gone up in difficulty, 2 or 3x. Okay, it's more difficult. You're not going to answer questions. Now, what happens of the man who's not answering questions is that he knows something. Okay, he knows something, and here's what he knows in two parts. Number one, he knows the extent of his rights. Okay, in the Constitution. And that implies the other part, which is he knows the limits on the authority of the person with whom he's dealing. He knows the limits on the authority of the officer, the tax collector, or whomever who is suddenly saying, sir, you owe me this allegiance, you owe me this fealty, you owe me this duty. And I want you to admit it now. Admit it now. I'm giving you notice. Okay, that's the kind of approach that some of these people face. And there are businesses all across Chattanooga and Hamilton County who have had this kind of encounter. I know I've had this kind of encounter before, and I've had to take the governor to court over it. And in fact, one of my case prompted the General Assembly of the state of Tennessee to rewrite a perfectly good statute. And I was defending the statute, and the commissioner of safety was misrepresenting it. That's what he was doing. He was misrepresenting and misreading the statute. And the General Assembly, of course, whose members are voted on by you, didn't know what it had done, didn't know how to read the law either. And so it rewrote a perfectly good law to account for my arguments. And so I will fight if I have to. Okay, I will handle my own law work. I handle all my own law work because I know how to read. I have a master's degree from UT in English and a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Virginia. So not that means much, but I will say that Thomas Jefferson, the great states' rightser, was, or should I say is, the founder of the University of Virginia, where I spent four very liberal years in Charlottesville, Virginia. Well, okay, so the two answers then are lococentrism in your politicking, and then B, standing your ground and knowing your rights locally, vis-a-vis, that is to say, face-to-face in French, face-to-face with the officer. And it's important to consider what this means, because the story about Avery Gray has some of these elements in there. I think what I may do, I might play part of this right now.
My name is Avery Gray.
Here she is.
I am the mother
City Council
of the 14-year-old little girl that was drugged out of the car downtown by the hands of a city Chattanooga police officer. And my concern, what I have to say today is, my daughter was sitting in the car, minding her own business, 14-year-old little girl, homeschooled, not unruly, good kid. Chattanooga police officer walks up to the window with a repo man when they knew where that car was. They could have had the car. That's not the issue. Don't pick your phones up, because you all should know this law, and I'm not being disrespectful, but Tennessee state law, police are not allowed to get involved in repossessions or evictions. That's a civil matter. Now, if he'd have came with a court order from a judge signed by a judge and handed it to that police officer, then that police officer had the right to tell my daughter to get out the car. But he did not have a right to just walk up to that car and beat on that window and tell my daughter to get the F out the car. And I'm gonna tell you something. I know all of you have, some of you up here have children, or maybe all of you all have children. But I don't know if you know how it feels to come out of a building and your child is begging you to help them, crying hysterically, hyperventilating and everything, and her arms are all twisted up with handcuffs. You all don't know how that feels. I don't have a criminal background. None of my kids do. My daughter was taken to juvenile for resisting arrest. For what? For what? Because she didn't get out the car on his timing? She didn't get out. She didn't move fast enough for him. So basically, if I was out there in the parking lot and I grabbed my daughter out that car like he grabbed my daughter, I'd went to jail for domestic assault. If I'd have left my daughter in the car with it raining, with the windows up, with no keys, without the AC on, which it still gets warm even though it's raining, that's child neglect. I would have went to jail for child neglect for leaving her in the car like that. So I raised my kids. All my kids know how to drive. My dad taught me how to drive when I was 10. I taught them how to drive when they were 10 years old. I always told them, if you don't want to go in a place with me, one of you all needs to sit behind the wheel of the car. So if a stranger comes up, at least you know how to pull off and get away from that person. I was parked in the handicap with a handicap placard that's in date. So this tow truck pulls up in front of my car, wanting the car. And Officer Wright wants to reach inside the car, turn the car off, grab the keys, and hand it to the repo man. Then my daughter tells him that she's trying to get my I couldn't take my stuff into the jail, so she was trying to get my purse and my wallet and stuff. And then the month before, I just buried my father. So that's why you all haven't heard from me, because I was really close with my dad, so I've been grieving my father really bad. She asked him, could she just get our stuff out, which was my father's medical records and his death certificate in the folder in the back seat. That's why she was asking, could she get the stuff out? Why was it so hard for him to just let her get the stuff and just get out the car? Or why was it hard when she told him several times, she's only 14, can you please go inside and get my mother? Why? All I want to know is why. Does anybody have that answer? Can any of you all answer that question for me? Why this officer could not come inside and get me, her mother, her guardian, and deal with me? Why are you dealing with a 14-year-old child? Now, on my end, it has nothing to do with race, because my father's white, and he was a veteran, and my mother's black. And my father, if he was here today, he'd be standing up. He was sitting right here.
This is David Schwartz. We're hearing a little bit about Avery Gray and her presentation last night before the City Council. We're going to talk next about the Tennessee prison system. Grievous things are happening in Tennessee prisons, which are the slave camps of the modern state slavery, and all the rules that are made for the safety of the prisoners widely ignored. David Schwartz.
Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
A car rear-ended a Hamilton County school bus on Amnicola Highway this afternoon. Photos show minimal damage to the school bus, but the front end of the car was totally caved in. The driver reportedly told the police they did not see the bus. There were no students on board. A similar crash happened yesterday when a car slammed into a fire truck in Chattanooga. It happened on Hamill Road. The occupants of the car were hospitalized. The firefighters were fine. The TBI tweeted an update about the Amber Alert that buzzed our phones this morning. Great news, they say Stephen Smith has been recovered and is safe. Stevie Boyd is currently in police custody in Memphis. Stevie Boyd, believed to be armed and dangerous at the time of his son's disappearance. Stephen Smith, a 3-week-old, reportedly abducted by his non-custodial father. The Sean Hannity Show is on every weekday from 3 to 6 on Nooga Radio. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News. Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Heating up out there for your afternoon. Lots of sunshine. Dry for the next few days as well. Highs 90 to 93. Tonight, fair. Lows into the upper 60s. For Thursday, more sunshine. Hot and dry. Highs into the lower 90s. Around 90 again on Friday. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area. Check rlsouthernrealty.com for their complete listing. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Pat Report.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will build to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Shannedy. President Trump is in North Carolina visiting areas hardest hit by Hurricane Florence.
Hurricane Florence was one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the Carolinas, one of the most powerful and devastating storms ever to hit our country. To the families who have lost loved ones, America grieves with you.
The president surveying a massive relief operation. More from correspondent Manuel Bajorquez in Wilmington, a community that's still mostly cut off by floodwaters.
People are telling us that it's great to have the food and water right now, especially those who went days with only bread and water, as some told us. But what they really need right now is ice. It's hard to come by, and many of them have food that they don't want to continue to spoil, and medications like insulin that they need to remain cold.
The death toll from the storm now 37 across 3 states. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, has sent a new letter to the lawyers representing Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who has accused Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of a sexual assault some 36 years ago. Steve Dorsey reports.
Grassley tells Ford's lawyers that he hopes she will testify to the committee Monday morning, even though she wants the FBI to investigate her allegation first. Grassley says he'll allow her to testify privately. Kavanaugh will also have the opportunity to defend himself. Grassley says the committee will endeavor to discover the truth of the matter.
A shooting spree at a commercial building near Madison, Wisconsin this morning. It's left 4 people wounded and the shooter in custody. There's been no word on the motive. One of the kidnappers of Elizabeth Smart from her Salt Lake City home in 2002 was released today from prison. Wanda Barzee spent 15 years behind bars.
Ms. Barzee has been deemed to have served the incarceration portion of her sentence.
Her attorney, Scott Williams.
Ms. Barzee will be thoroughly supervised by very professional and skilled officers at the United States Probation, and she will comply with all conditions of her release.
Smart said she was shocked and disappointed by the move. CBS News Radio has lost one of its own with the death of longtime anchor and correspondent Dave Barrett. He had a rapid-fire delivery in a style all his own.
Making Thanksgiving dinner at home?
Get back there and stuff that turkey.
Takes time and money to prepare that feast.
Get busy.
The government says a 16-pound bird will run you a little more than $19.
CBS Sports lead play-by-play announcer Jim Nantz was a longtime friend.
Dave did it all, but his career was just too short. This is a life that had many years to go, many stories to tell, and it's a very sad day for anyone out there who had the great honor of knowing Dave Barrett.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 194. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Oh, bud, I heard these guys live once.
How was it?
It was way more
like this! This is awesome!
Give them a concert experience they'll never forget and save on the ticket. Buy 2 boxes of participating Big G cereals like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Honey Nut Cheerios, or Lucky Charms for a $10 Ticketmaster ticket cash code.
Hey, how about tickets to the game Sunday? Seriously?
Must be 13 years or older. Redeem impact code by 10/27/18. Exclusions apply. Visit Ticketmaster.com/General Mills Cereal for full terms and conditions.
coffee shop, gas station, grocery store, Polly's Palace of Fine Coats. One of these purchases is not like the others. Sound suspicious? We thought so too. Today, we're recommitting to you and continuing to help keep your money safe, like alerting you to certain card activity we find suspicious. If it's not your purchase, we'll help you resolve it. Wells Fargo, established 1852, re-established 2018. Availability may be affected by your mobile carrier's coverage area. Wells Fargo Bank N.A., member FDIC.
The scourge of teenagers for generations, acne, is finally getting a positive spin thanks to a social media movement that's gaining support from celebrities. They're calling it pimple positivity as people celebrate the many and varied appearances of our skin, and not just from acne, but also freckles and even stretch marks. The movement seeks to educate those who believe skin problems are the result of poor nutrition or hygiene. Animal rights activists have long complained about the way lobsters are prepared by restaurants, basically boiling them alive. Now, an eatery in Southwest Harbor, Maine, is offering an alternative. Charlotte Gill, owner of Charlotte's legendary Lobster Pound, is also a registered medical marijuana caregiver. At customers' request, she'll put lobsters in a box and blow marijuana smoke in their face to calm them down. She's even building a tank so that she can treat several crustaceans at once. They get some pot before they get the pot. Jim Chenevey, CBS News.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Bank tellers testified against a robbery defendant yesterday. 2 tellers from the Bank of America Hickson branch said Walter Rice was the man who robbed them at gunpoint last summer, stealing $33,000. One of the tellers said that he pushed a gun into her back and forced her inside the building. A high-speed car chase in Dade County left 2 people arrested. Deputies say they took off after a driver who didn't have registration after dispatch alerted them he was wanted from Alabama. Cops say the driver threw items from his car at deputies as they tried to chase him down. The driver was eventually boxed in. Corey Rogers taken into custody and Colby Purdy arrested as well. Cops say they had meth inside their car. A Dunlap home on Fredonia Road was completely consumed in a fire yesterday. Dunlap firefighters tried to keep the flames at bay, but the heat was so extreme they were pushed back. The home declared a total loss. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Heating up out there for your afternoon. Lots of sunshine. Dry for the next few days as well. Highs 90 to 93. Tonight, fair. Lows into the upper 60s. For Thursday, more sunshine. Hot and dry. Highs into the lower 90s. Around 90 again on Friday. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area. Check rlsouthernrealty.com for their complete listing. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
The radio 92.7.
You hear that? That's the sound of power. The call of the open road. That is the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. More than a bike, it's an experience and an American icon. And the place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. Ready to answer that call? Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Nicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I have a story coming out today about the Hanson Melvin case, and in there, this is the Hanson walking while black Melvin, who in 2016 was falsely charged, arrested, jailed, indicted under perjured testimony by the officer David Campbell, and the indictment was quashed by Neil Pinkston, the district attorney, in a meeting with Hanson Melvin. Hanson said, "Look, this is false accusation against me, and there's no warrant for this case to go forward." So Neil Pinkston looked at what he saw and smelled a rat, and Judge Poole affirmed the dismissal with an order for expungement in Hanson Melvin's case from 2016. And just today, we'll be reporting that at Nuganomics.com that Hanson has settled with the city. He had demanded $500,000 in punitive damages for conspiracy and civil rights and constitutional rights violations. And here he is settling. And the reason I'm disheartened by that is that with a settlement, there is not going to be an airing of the dirty laundry that has to be seen as stained and greasy, and has to be ordered into the soap dish. We have to have a cleaning and a cleansing, and it won't happen because of a settlement for much less than is deserved by this victim here in Hamilton County in Chattanooga. The attorney Clay Whitaker convinced Hanson to settle. So this is something which I'm glad to say that Hanson is made whole. But the airing of the bad news that needs reform and directing reform in the Chattanooga Police Department is not going to happen, or not from this case. We have to wait for some other person to be abused and to stand his ground. That is what we are arguing for here on the David Toulis Show, Nougat Radio 92.7 FM, is standing your ground, because the free people do not buckle. The free people do not go on the knee and lower their lips to the uplifted boot. That, of course, is lifted up as a sign of grace, that you don't have to go all the way to the ground to kiss it. You only go halfway as the boot is raised for your convenience and for your as a sign of mercy to you. So kissing the boot either way is something we really kind of don't find very tasteful, maybe not very sanitary, not very healthy. And so what can we do to stand firm? Now, we have with us on the phone the real expert in the hellhole industry, the prison industry in Tennessee. Her name is Sharon Rondeau, and she is a blogger. Guess where? In Connecticut, a little farm town in Connecticut. And she runs thePostEmail.com, which is the leading website, the leading news source for the prison world, the world of state slavery here in Tennessee. And we want to ask her about things she's reporting. There is a confluence of news and headlines. From the Chattanoogan.com this morning is this about 8 indictments returned at the Morgan County Correctional Complex in Morgan County, where my correspondent, in fact, a mutual correspondent between Sharon Rondeau and me, Grenda Harmer, is ensconced as inmate and no doubt troublemaker. And the indictment is for contraband being brought into Morgan County Complex. And this is where Grenda is. In fact, Grenda has been reporting this. I'm going to go back through my correspondence with him or his correspondence with me and update you by type, right, by the printed word, by the online word. The inmate is named Robert Fusco, indicted for introducing contraband into Morgan County. Now, Sharon Rondeau, you have a staggering account, which is, I would say, trumps that one as far as shock value in the state slave system in Tennessee. You, Sharon, with hundreds of correspondents in the prison system, with real insight as to what is happening in our state. What do you have to report, Sharon?
Well, thank you again, David, for having me on, as always. The letter I received on Monday was indeed a shocker. I mean, all the letters I received from the inmates, and there are dozens and dozens every month, of course, sometimes every week, every one contains usually bad news. Once in a while, there's one, as you said, from Mr. Harmer with good news. This one was quite a shock and literally turned my stomach. It was from an inmate at the Northwest Correctional Complex. That's in Tiptonville, way up in Lake County in the upper, northwest part of the state. And I do get quite a few letters from inmates there. There's a problem with a female correction officer up there, but this had something to do with, not to do with her, actually. What it said is that this inmate witnessed, he said, he wrote, and it's all at the post and email. You can read it, and his letter is there, so you can see it. He said he witnessed an inmate who was, they had a hearing, and they are supposed to have these hearings every 7 days after someone is put in the protective custody unit, which is called PC. It's separate from what they call general population or GP. So this inmate was placed in protective custody, and normally an inmate will want to go to protective custody because they've been threatened and it's credible fear, and they've presented that to some staff and said, look, I really fear for my life, for my safety, and usually they're put in PC. Well, evidently this inmate was, and then they had a powwow over it and decided that he didn't need to be there anymore. Whether or not that was accurate, as far as whether he needed to be there, I don't know, but the decision was he needed to be moved back to general. So when he got that news, he refused to go into his cell. He obviously, the way the inmate described it, he was extremely scared for his life, very frightened, because they said, you're going to go back to the compound, which is general population, but it has gang members in it. And so he said, I don't want to go back there. I fear for my life. He didn't want to go in his cell. Well, the report I have is that a correction officer punched him in the face directly, right then, right smack in his face. And then 3 or 4 officers hauled him back into his cell and basically tried to throw him there. At that point, somehow this is a report I have. I did not see this, of course, but the report I have is that he then took a blade. He had a blade somewhere, whether it was on his person or on the bed or wherever it was, and he slashed his wrists and his legs.
His own wrists and his own legs. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. Yes. Not the correction officers, but his own. The report is that he did that, and that he was starting to profusely bleed, and that the correction officers stood there and said, well, we'll call medical when you bleed to death.
And that's a quote. Who is being quoted in that?
Yes, the inmate who wrote me, and I don't want to say who he is because there's a lot of retaliation there, as we know. This is someone who's corresponded with me before, and I consider him quite reliable. So that's what he said. The correction officer said. And then it gets worse. That's not enough. It's not all. It gets worse. He then, I don't know how long this inmate had this in his cell or how he was able to procure it and keep it there without someone seeing it. But that, again, speaks to other problems there. He apparently had a rope, and it was hung from a place where you would put that if you wanted to commit suicide. And the report is that he stepped into it, even bleeding and everything, and that he let himself hang by it. His face turned purple, and the correction officer stood there. And finally, they took him down, and then he was on the floor, motionless. This is the report I have. As I said, I didn't see this, but this is the report, and it's in the letter. And then they tugged on the rope as he lay there. Basically, he was unconscious, and they tugged on it, and they said, see, get up. You're not dead.
What happened then?
That's in the letter, too. And finally, somehow, I don't know how this man came to or what they did, but apparently the man is still alive because the letter writer said to me that he knows that the person is alive. I don't know whether they moved him out onto the compound or whether they got him mental health or what they did. They call it, mental health, meaning that he was able to see someone from the mental health unit. I don't know how that all panned out. What I was told, the date of the letter, which was, let's see, I'm not looking at it right this moment. Today's the 19th. I believe it was dated the 13th. So as of the 13th, the inmate to whom all of this reportedly happened was still alive. I don't know what happened after that.
Well, what do you suppose, Sharon Rondeau, would be the location of this inmate who who made a demonstration of killing himself? He didn't perhaps cut deep enough or far enough to do that. Where would someone like that go? Is that does he remain in protective custody, or does he go back? Are there only these two places, general population and protective custody? Is there some third place where a mentally unstable person can be put?
That's a very good question. I don't think there is one there. There's a place called the Annex, which is for minimum security prisoners who have been well behaved and no write-ups and all that. But that I don't think is even in the picture here. I think you're very correct. I think normally the procedure is that an inmate who tries to kill himself should get some kind of treatment. Whether or not he will, I don't know. I do not believe Northwest has the facilities or the ability to care for someone like that. They probably do have a mental health counselor, and he did ask to see mental health. He said, I want a mental health call right now. I'm going to kill myself. He warned him. He said, I'm going to kill myself. I will not go back to the compound because I know I will be killed. So the way the inmate wrote the letter, he says, you can see how desperate this inmate was. And the last name is Anderson of the inmate who tried to kill himself. He said, you can see how desperate inmate Anderson was because he would rather have killed himself than have been placed back in the compound where the gang members allegedly threatened him. So I don't think Northwest has the ability to treat him there. Maybe initially, but I would think that someone in that situation would get sent out to either what they call, a free world hospital, which is a regular hospital you or I would go to, or there is the DeBerry Special Needs, and that is strictly a medical facility for prisoners, and that is in the Nashville area.
Well, Sharon Rondeau, how can my listener hear from what can my listener hear from you that shows your evaluation of this letter? And the reason I ask how you evaluate this kind of correspondence is people say that prisoners are always innocent. They're always blaming others for their problems, and they make up a lot of things. They have no reason to tell the truth. They have reason only to make things lighter on themselves, to ease their burdens, ease their pains. And we hear that kind of argument made by Nasa Taylor, who is the director of communications, who had a letter to me just a couple days ago dismissing my query about yet another inmate who is being denied his medication. She says, your comments have been shared with our chief medical director, and after review, it has been determined that the characterization that I quoted from the letter is quite misleading and erroneous. So she says that almost everything I ask her about regarding an inmate correspondence of the kind you get are erroneous. So how do you evaluate whether the material you're getting, Sharon Rondeau, is believable? What makes it credible? And where?
That's a great question. Absolutely. And you can't, in this world, you can't believe everything you read, see, hear. You've got to vet it. And that's absolutely right. I have gotten, as you know, literally hundreds of letters over the last almost 3 years. Well, a little more than 3 years, actually. It's been a little bit more, from inmates at maybe not every Tennessee prison, but Northwest, what they call West High, certainly from Morgan County, from SCCF, South Central, and then, of course, there's the Trousdale one. I've gotten a lot of letters from people there. And so many of them say the same thing. They say, I'm not getting my medication. My medication was suddenly either cut in half or cut out. A lot of the times it's just not dispensed. And most of these people writing letters, and sometimes it is a relative, it's a wife or somebody, or even a friend, a relative, they don't know each other. Now, a few of them do. A few of them say, well, I got your name from such and such who suggested I write to you. But more often than not, these are all people who do not know each other. They're from different prisons. And they say, I'm not getting my medication and I'm having side effects. Mr. Harmer is in that situation right now. And if I were to ask Nasa Taylor, she would just say, well, I can't talk about medical. And I have communicated with her twice. I said, I've gotten a report from a concerned individual who is very trustworthy, who said that he has not gotten his medication since May. And now Grenda had mentioned this to me. And for some reason, I guess I thought back in the spring it had been reinstated. And maybe it was for a short time, but apparently if it was, they took it away again. So now it's been months. And he has written me recently. I got a letter on Monday also that said that he's really experiencing side effects. He's dizzy quite a bit. The name of the medication they will not reinstate is called Antivert, which, as you can guess, it's an anti-dizziness medication meant to to waylay any dizziness. It has to do with a disturbance of the inner ear or other purposes, and I'm not sure what his condition is exactly. But he reports that he has not gotten that for months now, and he is experiencing a lot of dizziness and weakness. And this just goes on and on and on. And I followed up with Ms. Taylor. I sent her another email. I said, Mr. Harmer said he still hasn't received this medication after many months, and I get no response. So, whether she is going to say it's erroneous or not, she's not telling me that my claim is erroneous this time, these last, 2 times. But the thing is, so many of them say this. I read your email that you had sent to her and what you received back. And the story is so familiar that they're not getting their medication or they're not getting it regularly. You have type 1 diabetics who must have insulin to survive, and they're not getting it. So this is completely against the law, and it's against TDOC policy for that matter. So I go by the sheer number of letters to answer your question, the number of letters and the same types of complaints that I've gotten. And also, as we know, Channel 4, WSMV, did a 4-segment expose in June of last year, and it was widely watched, and the segments are still on their website, even though CoreCivic had threatened, I don't know if they threatened to sue, but they just said that they took issue with it and they didn't feel that it was accurate and everything. Those segments are still posted at WSMV. They have stood by those reports, and those reports said that there were some horrendous things going on. This was specifically at the CoreCivic-run prison, Trousdale Turner Correctional Center, and that's over in I forget now. I should know, but that's the newest one. And the thing is that I don't see how all these people can be saying the same thing and not have it be true.
There's a consistency.
Never retracted its reports.
There's a consistency in the level of reporting. I may have I had 2 correspondents. I had Rob Whipple, who is watching live on Facebook, by the way. Thank you, Rob, for tuning in, and Jim Poe, and also the noted Florida attorney Buddy Ford, the tax attorney, a real patriot, watching on Facebook. We are live on Facebook, also live on YouTube, and we're talking with Sharon Rondeau, and the number is 800-8949 to get in on the program, 800-8949. And so Sharon she's in Connecticut, but is the real expert by sheer volume of correspondence with inmates in Tennessee's, I think, 14 prisons, several run for profit by CoreCivic, including we have a jail here in Hamilton County in the Chattanooga area. That's Silverdale, run by this profit-seeking company whose shares you can buy on the secondary markets and on Wall Street. Make a profit with them, get a dividend, and sell your share at a profit if the value goes up in that trading. And this is David Toulis. Sharon, how bad is the gang problem in Tennessee prisons? What do gangs do for people? There's a reason to be a member of a gang, and how does gang life in prison assist and benefit the inmate when he gets out? What happens to him when he gets out if he has, you might say, favorable gang connections in the prison system?
Well, now that is another excellent question. I actually do not know. I've never heard from anyone who was released on parole and stayed a member of a gang. So I actually have no experience in that. But I do know that a lot of people in prison will join a gang because they're afraid for their life. And they figure, well, I've got to affiliate. It's called being affiliated. If they affiliate with a group, one gang or another, they feel that there's protection. And if they don't, then there's no protection. There's also a lot of extortion going on both inside and outside of the prisons. And I've heard from a fiance of a man who's in a Tennessee prison. He's been moved around a couple of times, I believe, but he was at Trousdale for a while and then was moved. But she's been extorted in the 4 figures by people who, they call from a phone that has no number, it's unidentifiable, and they say you're going to buy a gift, not a gift card, but you're going to buy this card and you're going to send it here. You're going to do this. And
you're talking about family members?
If you don't, we're going to kill them.
Sharon, are you saying family members are being extorted? Prisoners' relations?
Yes, those are the reports I've received. In this case, it was a girlfriend. It's a fiance, so she's not, married to the guy. They do intend to get married when he gets out. But I have heard from other people, and WSMV has also reported, they had a story out not too long ago, it was this year, where a woman reported being extorted multiple times. And that story should be up at their website still as well.
Well, we're talking with Sharon Rondeau. And Sharon, thank you so much for talking with my listener and me. Your website is thepostemail.com. That's thepostemail.com. And can my listener subscribe to you, or does he have to go there intentionally every day? How do you How do you
Actually, they
communicate?
can go there once, and then they can sign up for a free newsletter. It comes out at 10 a.m. Eastern every morning, and we'll continue to do so. There's no cost. All they have to do is sign up to get it, and they get a full digest of everything that's been published within the last 24 hours, and that's 7 days a week.
And that's Sharon Rondeau, thepostemail.com. So if you know someone in prison in Tennessee or have some distressing connection with the state's slave farming operation, make sure that family member or that distant relative or friend gets word of Sharon Rondeau's work. She is a real expert, and there's a sense of belonging to these outside, thousands of people outside of family members, waiting wives, waiting uncles and nephews and nieces and husbands even. And Sharon is the real expert. So Sharon, again, thank you for joining me and my listener here on the David Toulis Show.
Thank you very much, David. Bye-bye.
Bye. David Toulis, and we're hearing from Sharon Rondeau. Make sure you subscribe to that website and tell a friend who's caught up in that trap, okay? Thepostemail.com. I highly recommend it. Thepostemail.com. And Sharon Rondeau, you've been hearing from her. Grievous news in Tennessee hellholes called prisons. State slavery at its very best.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A car rear-ended a Hamilton County school bus on Amnacoa Highway this afternoon. Photos show minimal damage to the school bus, but the front end of the car was totally caved in. The driver reportedly told the police they did not see the bus. There were no students on board. A similar crash happened yesterday when a car slammed into a fire truck in Chattanooga. It happened on Hamel Road. The occupants of the car were hospitalized. The firefighters were fine. The TBI tweeted an update about the Amber Alert that buzzed our phones this morning. Great news, they say Stephen Smith has been recovered and is safe. Stevie Boyd is currently in police custody in Memphis. Stevie Boyd, believed to be armed and dangerous at the time of his son's disappearance. Stephen Smith, a 3-week-old, reportedly abducted by his non-custodial father. The Sean Hannity Show is on every weekday from 3 to 6 on Nooga Radio. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News. Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Cash, and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships, as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust. Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Heating up out there for your afternoon. Lots of sunshine. Dry for the next few days as well. Highs 90 to 93. Tonight, fair. Lows into the upper 60s. For Thursday, more sunshine. Hot and dry. Highs into the lower 90s. Around 90 again on Friday. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area. Check rlsouthernrealty.com for their complete listing. And I'm Sorteen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Report.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I don't want to complain about people who are heroic. And I think Hanson Melvin is a hero in Chattanooga. Now, he's done something in the way of a compromise in the past 2 or 3 weeks that I would say is not ideal, but I understand it perfectly. I would not fault him and his wife Tara for having discussed the matter among themselves and agreed to take the offer from Chattanooga City government and the office of Phil Noblett, city attorney, who was dealing back and forth with the plaintiff's attorney, Clay Whitaker. And so these lawyers between themselves worked out to convince the client, the defendant, and the plaintiff, Hanson Melvin, to make a deal. We don't know what the deal is as far as dollar value goes, but the claim made initially many months back was that $500,000 is adequate compensation for false arrest, false imprisonment, violation of constitutional right, perjury, and conspiracy among Chattanooga police officers to harass and intimidate the walking while black dad, a homeschool dad, 3 children, and who happens to be black, or just happens to be black. And Hanson Melvin agreed, okay, well, I'm having to miss work. He's a working man, worked probably in every restaurant in Hickson. When I met him, he was at a bagel chain on Hickson Pike. And when I heard about his problem, I do what I do. That is, I immediately sprung into action. And that's what I do when I hear a problem of someone being abused or wronged. I act. I don't just sit around. I call back. I make appointments. I want to see what happens. I get statements, and I do that. I ask good questions. I ask the dumb questions of my listener, and find out what the story is. What are the facts? There's a story here that I'm going to get as journalist, and maybe, just maybe, that person being my subject, right, being my object of my investigatory labors benefits. And that's what happens when people talk with me. They benefit because they know how things work. Why? Because I ask the dumb questions. I ask the dumbest questions. And those often, I think, are the best ones. Now, Hanson came to me saying, David, he knew I was in the press business as a member of the Free Press of Tennessee, and he said, David, can I talk to you about my problem? I said, absolutely. So I said, let's meet and let me get a statement from you. Let me nail down all the facts. All right, what are the facts? And it's funny, Hansen forgot facts, and he wrote an affidavit about his false arrest. And one fact he forgot that came out in the officer's audio tape is this statement. Well, you're on government property. Hansen forgot to put that in his affidavit. He just forgot. So the sooner you make an affidavit after you're abused by the good people, the better off your claim will be when time comes to make your claim, because you are a victim now, but you're going to turn the table on the good people and show that they have acted outside the scope of their authority. They have acted in personal animus. They have acted perhaps in bad faith. And you are going to seek redress. That is, in fact, a First Amendment right, as Marie Mott says, to seek redress of grievance, to speak freely, and to communicate. Communication is not just using your gums to flap them around and make statements. Communication is the movement of your person from point A to point B, as I have explained. You want the number? You going to call me? Okay. 800-8949, 800-8949. That's 800-8949. And I'm on every day at 1 o'clock. And get the download, and download the Next Radio app and put in Nuga Next Radio. That turns your smartphone into an actual radio, where your phone gets the streaming not from the internet, but from the actual airwaves, the FCC licensed airwaves. A great benefit. The chips are now free to do that. So download Next Radio and have that app, and you can hear me through your phone as if it were a radio. The best thing you could ever imagine. Radio, a dynamic and powerful medium. And we are on 2 channels, 2 stations here. David Toulis, local economy in the free market. They say I'm the leading Nuga centrist in Chattanooga, and I probably am. Chattanooga, well, Saudi Daisy is too, where I live. Great town. The center of the universe, the absolute center. I am a geocentrist, by the way, as opposed to a heliocentrist, as some would count it. You report, and the world decides. Hansen Melvin took a compromise, and the problem is that the things of which he makes notes, probably one of the best read stories on Nuganomics.com is the story of his filing his lawsuit. That story was read hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of times by people across the country, and about Officer David Campbell's false arrest. Now, and you can read that separately. I don't want to go into the details here, but let's just say it's a very good claim that he made. And Hansen, and here's what happened when I finally got a hold of him to say, Hansen, what's happening with your suit? All right, where do things stand? Hansen, I think, got embarrassed. I don't want to say that, but I think he may have been a little embarrassed that I was kind of calling him on it. Not really calling him, just asking, what were you thinking? What's going on in your mind? I'm not accusing him, I'm just asking, right? What, you had good reason to do this, and it's not wrong. You haven't sinned or anything, right? You just did what seemed right to you to do. And he said, well, there's no trial. There's no trial. He says, I didn't want to keep going through the process, man. I should have just hung in there, he said. He's kind of regretting. He says, I just feel like those other guys didn't get what they deserved. And here he's talking about the gang of officers who, using their cell phones, arranged a meeting at the very moment Hansen Melvin came home from jail, right? Wrongly jailed overnight in his night clothes, I think. And then coming home with a friend, Mr. Holmes, the friend who brought him home. And suddenly they're descended on by cops, a gang of cops, checking him out, right? Having a conversation with him, separating the 2 men and patting them down, right? The Terry pat down for safety, right? He says, I feel like Campbell did the work, but they helped him to do it too. And he says, so he Campbell's the sort of the bad guy, but he's also, as a Christian, Hansen Melvin, I would say, it demonstrated extraordinary grace and sweetness. He did in his ride to the jail. The conversation he had with the officer was truly soul stirring, because he is a Christian man, and he knows, like Joseph, sold by his brothers to the traders going to Egypt. He knows he's being wronged. He knows an evil is being done to him, and yet he knows there's good in it, and there's good in it. And so he is Hanson Melvin is a kind of Christ, right? He's a kind of a Christ figure. All heroes are. They're self-sacrificing. They're doing what the Lord Jesus did for his people, right? His own people, the ones he chose for whom to die. He says, I don't hate Campbell or nothing. I don't have no ill feelings. I kind of feel bad for him. They asked me if I wanted to keep showing up to the hearings, if I wanted to keep jumping him. You know what I mean? I think he's had enough. People know what happened, and I think that's enough. I don't want to financially hurt him. I just want to wake him up. This is Hanson Melvin talking to me. He says that he regrets the loss of exposure that the settlement brings. He says, I guess you're right. I never did think that deep, Dave, to be honest with you, Dave. I had to miss work a couple of times and stuff like that. I didn't want to keep on missing work. Going through all this stuff, you know what I mean? I should have just thought about it long and hard. I guess you're right. Guess you're right, my friend. Swept under the rug. Swept under the rug. And the question I'm asking you, my listener, is this. Where do we have reform? How do we get reform in Chattanooga? Yeah, you can answer. You sure can. 800-8949, 800-8949, where you report and the world decides. You have your smartphone going. You make a record of all of your encounters, okay? If we have record, if you are my representative, my agent, my unofficial agent by adhesion, okay, perhaps, you can make the record of the kind that we need to have. And we need to air these records. We need to have nothing in secret. No secrets, okay? No secret policing. Everything in the open. The camera rolling, the audio rolling. And the reform is Hanson Melvin. He is the reformer. And you know why? Even though we could say, well, Hanson, you kind of, you messed up here. Well, no, he didn't mess up. Not at all. He has done a courageous thing. And do you know the great strength of Hanson Melvin and those who come after him, who will do like Hanson Melvin did? Do you know what they did? They stood their ground. And perhaps the main thing is he exercised his right to be indicted. You say, man, indictment, that's just terrifying. Well, no, actually, an indictment is a right. Don't be afraid of a right. An indictment is a right. What happens is everybody plea bargains. Everybody caves in to the prosecutor, and the PD, who is also a state employee, the public defender, he's there to make the system work. The system works when everybody caves in. I talked with a public defender recently at the Anjali Moore hearing, and he said in the past year, he's not had one case go to trial, not one case. Now you think about that. Is that where freedom comes from? No, freedom comes when the cops stop prosecuting people and cut by 95% their arrests and charges. Why do they do that? Because everybody in Chattanooga has got a heart. Everybody in Hamilton County has got a sense of his worth. And that, no, I'm not going to play games. I'm not going to be pragmatic. I'm not going to be shiftless and take the short way out. I'm going to fight for my rights. I'm going to fight for my name. And I'm not going to let these people accuse me falsely. I didn't do anything wrong. I've not violated any law. If everybody said that, well, guess what? The system would collapse. The prosecution, the policing would have to be cut by 95%. Now, my reform proposal for Title 55 would cut enforcement by 65%. Okay, it would cut it. It's not quite as far as this idea, but my idea will work over time because it's an actual legal remedy, whereas it's just kind of pie in the sky to say, well, you, my listener, should not make any statement and face arrest rather than make any admission at all of anything at any point. That's what Professor Duane says, don't answer questions. And so the reform that we have in view, I would say, is standing on your ground. But people don't stand on their ground, don't stand on their rights. They do not practice being belligerent claimants in person. That's what you have to be when you stand on your rights. No, sir, I'm not letting you pat me down. No, sir, I'm not going to let you look into my trunk. No, sir, I'm not going to give you my name because you don't have probable cause to stop me. No, sir, I don't answer questions. The burden of proof is entirely on you. Am I free to go? Of course, if the officer says you're not free to go, well, then you are under arrest. And by Chattanooga Police Department ethics rules and the arrest procedures manual, which is, I think, 13 pages on page 6, the officer is told that he must Mirandize you. Okay, so Mirandize yourself. Make no statement. Make no statement whatsoever in any form, because if the charge is coming at you through the transportation statute, believe me, your admissions in any way will be used against you in court. And that all those admissions, by the way, prove your culpability as being a commercial actor, subject to commercial government. That's what that's all about. I suggest you stand your ground. Now, this sounds awfully hard to say. It sounds awfully hard to do, but basically, in short, reform in Chattanooga will come in two ways, as I mentioned a moment ago, and that is B. You're hearing B here. B is standing your ground and being a belligerent claimant in person. That is to say, a fighting, a warlike, a bellicose. Belligerent and bellicose are synonyms. They are have like meaning. Stand your ground. 800-8949, 800-8949. Love your neighbor and buy local. That's my slogan here. And it's not trademarked. You may use it. You feel free to use it, even if you are from a far place. Nothing's trademarked and nothing really here is original. So if you stand your ground, that's B. But the first reform is going back to city council. And that is saying, I care nothing about Marshall Blackburn. I care nothing about the former governor, Bredesen. Those races don't mean anything. They really are meaningless. I'm not going to pay any attention to them. I may vote for one or the other, but what I really care about is what's happening here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County and my own county. If I'm from a far place from the big town, I'm out in a rural county, Meigs County, for example, Bledsoe County. I'm going to think lococentrically, and that is what I think we have to do. And if we think lococentrically, suddenly solutions come into view that are not in view when we consider the national story, the national narrative. Think for a second about this. If you have a lococentric perspective, if you believe that Chattanooga is the center of the universe, right? You're not a heliocentrist, you're a geocentrist, and then even more centric, you are a nougacentrist, right? The center is Chattanooga. If you think in those terms, it's a very whimsical concept, I know. If you think in those terms, you will suddenly see solutions that are not visible otherwise. For example, okay, here's the example. 66% of the people in the state-certified and award-winning hellhole called the county jail in Hamilton County, run honorably and truly by Sheriff Jim Hammond. 66% are there, and they have not been convicted of a crime. Why are they there? Why? Well, they're too poor to make bond. Now, some people have bad crimes laid against them, and they have a high bond, rightly or wrongly. Others have very minor offenses, and they're too poor to make a $500 bond. So if you're a man with a $1,000 bond, you have only to come up with $100, a piece of paper with 100 written 4 times on the front and 4 times on the back. And if you have that piece of paper, you can give that to the bondsman. That's his fee. He gets to keep that. And he will pretend to write a check to the county, which will pretend to honor the guarantee that he's giving for your appearance at the next hearing. That's all the bond is to guarantee appearance at the hearing. And you are not able to afford that. So you are languishing in the jail, unable to prepare a defense. You've lost your job. Your girlfriend, with whom you've had 2 bastard children, has moved on. The rent on your apartment, well, that's overdue. And she's gotten a notice in her new address now with her new boyfriend that you and her goods are going to be put on the corner in a few days because you're being evicted, right? You are being evicted and it's overdue. The rent is overdue and you are not communicative, and the landlord wants to rent the place to somebody else. So you've lost your job, you've lost your place, and your goods, you don't know where they are. You are totally out of sorts. Think how bad your life would have to be for those things to happen. Well, there are many people who don't have organized lives like you do, my Anglo-Saxon conservative male listener, right? You are organized, you have a calendar, and you have a smartphone. You're very well organized. But there are people who don't have those benefits. They may have cell phones, but they don't have your strengths, your talent, your knowledge, your connections, your provision. Right? They don't provide for themselves like you provide for yourself and your family. And so they are always on the edge. And, we've been told by the Lord, we shall always have the poor with us. And And we have them because they can't plan, they can't organize, they can't hold things together. And so the reform of the cash bail problem is this. And here's the reform. And Christian people should be the first to propose this, not the last. We should not have Michael Gilliland, a communist, as he tells me, proposing this. Why is a communist proposing something that a Christian should be proposing? Why is that? Well, I have an idea about Michael Gilliland, and I intend to interview him about this the first chance God gives me. And that is, why did you turn from Christianity to Marxism? And I'm sure that I see the outlines of his answer, and that is, the answer is that, well, the Christianity that I learned about was so small and so narrow, so privatized, so personalistic, so irrelevant to the larger world that I couldn't believe in it anymore. And Marx had much more answers than you guys did. My family did. My church heritage is the Pentecostalist system, and so that's why he abandoned Christianity, as far as I can tell from what he's told me. And so the Christian church in Chattanooga, of which there are 700, we are the most churched city in Chattanooga in the country, we're told, can contribute to a fund and make sure that not one person is in the jail who's not convicted. Okay, only people who are convicted are in jail. We can't deal with the whole system at once, but we can reform one part at a time. And the cash bail crisis is the one that has to be reformed and can be reformed now. So there are two parts of that. One is a cash bail fund, a recycling fund, and all it is really is someone manages these people, pays their bail, and makes sure they get to court. That's all that is required. Just make sure you get to court. And poor people often, they have contingencies that come into their lives that you don't have coming into yours. They have cars that don't work, like Avery Gray's leaky Lexus, right? Just a rotten car, sold, it barely ran, and it was repossessed. So that kind of life there. Avery Gray, whom you heard from a moment ago, has that kind of life. And people like her are in the jail. Get every one of them out. That is 66% of the population of the jail in Howland County. What can we do as Christian people to put up the money? If I put up $500, what will you do? You, my listener, what will you do? This is David Toulis. Go to my GoFundMe page and support this show. GoFundMe is the platform, GoFundMe, and it's the David Toulis Show, and support my labors here. It is in many ways a kind of Christian effort. Okay? This is a commercial radio station. It has to pay bills by providing the great service of advertising. But here, I know I bring some value to the station, but I want your support, okay? And that's GoFundMe. David Toulis. We have answers, and the church, the Christian church of God's people, has real answers. Let's put our money together and get these people out of that amazing and wonderful facility downtown. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A car rear-ended a Hamilton County school bus on Amnacoa Highway this afternoon. Photos show minimal damage to the school bus, but the front end of the car was totally caved in. The driver reportedly told the police they did not see the bus. There were no students on board. A similar crash happened yesterday when a car slammed into a fire truck in Chattanooga. It happened on Hamel Road. The occupants of the car were hospitalized. The firefighters were fine. The TBI tweeted an update about the Amber Alert that buzzed our phones this morning. Great news, they say Stephen Smith has been recovered and is safe. Stevie Boyd is currently in police custody in Memphis. Stevie Boyd, believed to be armed and dangerous at the time of his son's disappearance. Stephen Smith, a 3-week-old, reportedly abducted by his non-custodial father. The Sean Hannity Show is on every weekday from 3 to 6 on Nooga Radio. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Heating up out there for your afternoon. Lots of sunshine. Dry for the next few days as well. Highs 90 to 93. Tonight, fair. Lows into the upper 60s. For Thursday, more sunshine. Hot and dry. Highs into the lower 90s. Around 90 again on Friday. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area. Check rlsouthernrealty.com for their complete listing. And I'm Sortine 12, Chief Meteorologist, Pastor 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't.